They called it the apex of evolution, a creature so powerful that it could crush tanks with its claws and outrun plasma projectiles. The Vakzir were the galaxy's deadliest predators, feared across thousands of worlds. No species had ever bested them in open combat. They didn't negotiate. They didn't retreat. They hunted. And then, without warning, one of them bowed. Not to a god, not to a council, but to a lone human. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a trick. It was a moment that stunned the galaxy. The question that spread across systems like wildfire was simple. Why? Why did a creature that feared nothing suddenly submit to a species considered weak by most alien empires? What did that human do, or say, that forced the strongest being in the universe to kneel? The answer lies in a battle no sensor drone ever recorded, but that every living creature would come to know. The Vakzir legend, for centuries. The Vakzir were known across the Arraean Arm as the galaxy's most efficient and terrifying predators. Standing nearly 3 meters tall with armor like exoskeletons, eyes that could see into ultraviolet spectrums, and muscles capable of tearing through starship hulls, they were engineered by evolution for one purpose: domination. They were not created through artificial enhancement or cloning, but through pure, ruthless environmental pressure. Their homeworld, Varkala Prime, was a death world in the truest sense: volcanic storms, gravity 3 times that of Earth, and predators that made even the hardened mercenaries of the Zeran Dominion pause. The Vakzir were not mindless beasts. They were intelligent, tactical, and disciplined. They had no centralized government, but followed a code of hierarchy based on strength, cunning, and honor. Vakzir society respected warriors who defeated opponents without excessive cruelty. And duels to the death were often settled not just with muscle, but with strategic brilliance. While they did not engage in galactic politics, they were frequently hired as elite enforcers, bodyguards, and bounty hunters. Entire star systems would go silent when a Vakzir pack arrived. Among them, Vorakai was the strongest. Born during a triple eclipse, which the Vakzir considered an omen of supremacy, he defeated over 100 foes before he reached maturity. His claws had ripped through armored drones, his name etched in fear into every corner of the Confederation. Of free worlds, some species called him the walking extinction. The human anomaly. By the time humans entered the galactic stage, they were considered curious more than threatening. Adaptable, yes. Creative, certainly. But dangerous? Not to the likes of the Vakzir. That perception started to shift after the Battle of Epsilon Ridge, where a single human-led unit disabled an entire Threxian dreadnought using improvised EMPs and guerrilla tactics. The galactic community began to take notice. Humans were not stronger or faster than other species. In fact, by most biological metrics, they were below average. But what made them different was harder to measure: their capacity for chaos, innovation, and resilience under pressure. Humans didn't always follow logic. They followed instinct, passion, and something the alien species had no word for: gut feeling. Captain Elias Grant was a product of that very nature. Former Special Operations Officer turned freelance explorer, Grant had participated in over 50 missions across uncharted territories. He wasn't famous, but in circles where reputation was earned in blood and scars, his name carried weight. He wasn't looking for glory. He was looking for answers. The trap began on an unremarkable moon orbiting the gas giant Drenel. A distress beacon was detected by an old Terran relay. No ship signature, no colony markers, just a pulse signal repeating in binary: help, danger, biological anomaly. Grant, flying solo in his ship the Resolute, diverted course. When he arrived, the signal led him to an underground ruin, ancient and half collapsed, covered in strange carvings. He entered carefully, weapon drawn, sensors active. What he found wasn't a survivor. It was bait. From the shadows, 3 Vakzir warriors ambushed. Their attack was fast, precise, lethal. Grant barely escaped, using flashbangs and smoke to retreat into a side tunnel. Most beings would have been slaughtered in seconds. But Grant didn't panic. He had studied dozens of alien martial styles, including archived Vakzir combat rituals. He realized immediately this was a test-a-hunting game. The mind of a predator. Over the next 2 hours, Grant turned the hunters into the hunted. He used terrain to his advantage, collapsing weak ceilings, manipulating thermal signatures, and deploying noise decoys. One by one, the Vakzir fell. Not killed, but incapacitated, a deliberate choice on Grant's part. Then came the final confrontation. Vorakai himself stepped into the ruin, sensing something different. This human had passed the trials. It was time for the duel. Vakzir tradition dictated that such a duel be one-on-one. No weapons except those forged or carried. Grant agreed. He removed his sidearm, keeping only his shock blade and a wrist-mounted energy shield. The fight began in silence. It was brutal. Vorakai's strikes could shatter stone, but Grant was fast, slippery. He didn't match strength, he redirected it. He used low-gravity zones to flip off walls, made Vorakai chase into narrow corridors, and exploited every blind spot. In the end, it wasn't power that won. It was patience. Grant trapped Vorakai in a magnetic field chamber. With the controls fried, he had to make a choice: leave the creature to die, or save him. He saved him. The Boa's Grant lifted a damaged support beam to free Vorakai. The Vakzir looked at him with something no other predator ever showed a human: confusion. "You win," Vorakai growled. "Why spare me?" "Because you weren't the enemy," Grant replied. "You were a test, and I passed." That moment changed everything. In Vakzir culture, mercy from a position of strength was the highest form of honor. It indicated complete control, superiority not just in body, but in spirit. Vorakai bent his knee, not in submission, but in respect. Galactic impact news of the duel spread fast. Vakzir warriors do not speak lightly, and when Vorakai told the tale to his work-in, they believed him. Within weeks, the Vakzir declared that humans were not prey, they were Eshtakar, or respected chaos. Other species didn't know what to make of it. Some feared it. Others laughed, thinking it a fluke. But the Vakzir didn't laugh. For the first time in known history, they offered an alliance not because they needed help, but because they saw something in humanity they had never seen before. Unpredictability merged with empathy. It redefined galactic diplomacy, where brute strength failed, the human succeeded with adaptability. Where logic fell short, emotion filled the gap. They were the one species whose greatest weapon wasn't their technology or fleet. It was their capacity to surprise. Legacy: Elias Grant never sought fame. After the event, he quietly returned to Earth. He refused interviews, awards, or political positions. When asked why he left the spotlight, his answer was simple. It was never about making them bow. It was about making them see. Vorakai, meanwhile, became a legend among his people, not for his strength, but for recognizing a worthy opponent in an unlikely form. He later led a peacekeeping division of Vakzir warriors that partnered with human tactical teams to handle dangerous border zones. And so the answer to the question, why did the galaxy's strongest predator bow to a human, isn't just about the fight. It's about the moment when a being built for war saw the strength in choosing peace. A moment when power was redefined. And a moment when humanity earned its place not through fear, but through honor. Honor.